As poor a human as I am and seem to continue to be, and as pathetic a specimen as a husband as I've been to my Ethel for 53 years, I wonder at my daring to have written this kind of thing, or now to speak it. But I can't help it. I know where we should be looking, and I know where millions down the years have not only reached for, but have attained to. So the piece is intended to be encouragement. So if you can get over who I am and hear the word of the Lord in this, that'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. There's a girl in the Old Testament. Her name is Ruth. She says to her mother-in-law, "May the Lord deal with me ever so severely, if anything but death separates you and me." Some people wonder in what way the Old Testament has authority over Christians. You only have to hear what Ruth said, and you know what the answer is. Be that as it may, there's so much betrayal of trust in the world, so much of it, that you might think we'd all be cynics by now, believing no one, insisting on prenuptial agreements, pages of fine print, and a list of witnesses the length of a football field. Well, that's pretty much the order of the day in some cultures, isn't it? That being true, and in light of all of that, isn't it a grand kick in the head to discover that the bus you run to catch is packed full of trusters? That the supermarkets are jammed full of people who trust? Bless me, they're bringing up coal out of the coal mines. They're fixing our televisions. They're hanging off roofs and swinging on chandeliers. They're writing you a speeding ticket or cutting your hair. Everywhere you go, they're popping up or out or in or over or across or back again. They're everywhere. Praise God, they're everywhere. They know the horror stories. They know their own limitations and the shaping power of a glib and shrewd society. They look at the world, look at it with steady eyes, fully aware of the shiny veneer and the gold-plated promises. They miss nothing. And then, as if the world were made of solid oak, they give their hearts away. They mortgage the only hearts and lives they have because someone says to them, "I'm not very smart. I'm not good looking. I'll never make my mark in this world. But I love you. Yes, I do. I love you. And if you'll come with me, I'll never leave you. They hear that and they trust. They deserve to be honored with our faithfulness because they've earned it with their yes. And it's precisely because of their noble, spirited trust that they suffer incredible heartache when that trust is trampled in the dirt. Their emotions are savaged, but their whole view of the world takes a battering as well. And that adds calamity to tragedy. Believing that somehow right is stronger than wrong, they defy the jeering world and they're run over by a juggernaut. And we see them lying in ditches, broken, bleeding, groaning. The more cynical among us, we aren't hit as hard by treachery because we don't commit a lot. We know better, you see. Still, while we don't get badly hurt, we aren't greatly loved either. We aren't greatly blessed either. And perhaps that's worse. And perhaps what's worse is we never love gloriously. We shrewdly grab the shiny metal and turn down Aladdin's lamp because we've seen too many poor souls mangled beyond repair by the callous and the glib. In Puccini's opera, Madame Butterfly, which one scholar tells us was based on an actual event. In Puccini's opera, Butterfly is a sensitive 15-year-old Japanese girl who's swept off her feet by Lieutenant Pinkerton, USN. She turns from her traditional religion and she marries the sailor who makes her believe that she's the only one in the world he wants, though to someone else he says he's not very sure. Despite the bad record of marriages with visiting foreigners and despite the fact that the marriage has an out clause, Butterfly believes in Pinkerton with all her heart. He sets her up in a fine house, promises her that he'll come back and take her to America, and then he goes back to sea. It's only later that she discovers she's going to have his child, a child he knows nothing about. He's gone for 3 years. She misses him inexpressibly. She's having a hard time financially and socially. But far worse than all that, there's a lingering dread. And yet when her devoted maid, Suzuki, tries to persuade her of the worst, she rages against her and says Suzuki lacks faith, that she simply doesn't know Pinkerton And it's at that point, full of faith and smiling, seeing it all with her trusting heart, she sings the beautiful aria, One Fine Day. Hear me. One fine day we'll notice a thread of smoke arising on the sea, in the far horizon, and then the ship appearing. The white, trim vessel glides into the harbor, thunders forth the cannon. See you? Now he is coming. I do not go to meet him, not I. I stay up on the brow of the hill and wait there, and wait a long time, but never weary of the long waiting. From out of the crowded city, there is coming a man, and a little speck in the distance, climbing the hill. Can you guess who it is? And when he reaches the summit, can you guess what he'll say? He will call, "Butterfly," from the distance. I, without answering, hold myself quietly concealed, a bit to tease him, and a bit so as not to die. Dear baby mine, wife of mine, Orange Blossom, the names he used to call me when he came here. This will come to pass, as I tell you. Banish your fears, for he will return. I know it. The American consul Sharpless arrives with a letter saying that Pinkerton has married in the USA and is returning with his wife. Sharpless tries again and again to tell her, but he can't do it. He hasn't got the heart for it. They're interrupted by the arrival of the young prince, Yamadori. He wants to marry Butterfly, but she insists she's already married, the only one she'll ever love, and on the basis of what Pinkerton had promised. She turns down security and dignity for her and her child. Later, Pinkerton does arrive, but with his wife, Kate. He learns of the child and he's torn with grief at the agony his selfishness has caused. As soon as Butterfly enters and sees Kate, she senses who she is. And when the woman confirms it, Butterfly's world collapses. She sets her house in order, arranges for the little boy's future with Pinkerton, and all alone, broken-hearted and beyond comfort, she stabs herself and dies. Well, only a silly story. Just a silly story. Do you think so? The biblical truth that we read about a girl called Ruth. She took it all seriously and wouldn't walk away from her calamity-ridden mother-in-law, even though the older woman urged her to go back to her familiar and secure world. The young Moabite made that unforgettable commitment. Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord deal with me ever so severely, if anything but death separates you and me. The good news is that there are tens of thousands who say to one another, I can't be sure of this world or what the people in the world will do. I can only be sure of me and what I'll do. I will stay. Landon Saunders put it like this: marriage is two people looking deep into each other's eyes and saying, others may come and go in your life, but I never will. If you get sick, I'll care for you, feed you, bathe you. I'll do anything for you except leave you. I'll never leave you. To give our solemn promise is a gallant and profoundly serious and lovely thing. It alters the world for us because it shapes the future. It says some things are no longer options for us. But it doesn't only change our world. It changes the world for those who take us seriously. They too see the world and the future differently because they believe some things are certain, and on that promised future, their present world is shaped. They live in the light of that. I know some lovely people who are as distressed as I am at times about the state of the world, about terrorist threats, about the global economy, about the restlessness of the nations, about spiraling crime rates and deteriorating health. It's all that uncertainty, don't you see? But if I were to ask them if they were sure that their beloved would always be there, the answer would come quick, decisive, yes, immediate. Oh, always and always, come what may. Now that's something to be sure of.